Okay, what we're going to do here is paint a cool skull with some realistic blue fire. Okay, first what we're going to do is use the Mini Mania skull stencil. Okay, first applying the outside of the shield to the surface. We're working on black here, so what we're going to do is paint the light in. So we're painting the white. We've got some white base coat in the airbrush, lightly putting a mist coat over it, blending from the front to the back. Okay, make sure you get a nice and even coverage there. Okay, remove the shield and then use your tack rag and remove any overspray. Blacken the airbrush. What we need to do now is put the center of the skull in, okay, and paint over on the shield, letting the overspray do all our work for us. While we're doing that, is cleaning all of our edges up. Okay, now here comes the fun part. What we need to do now is start to soften these edges, stop them looking like a shield. Okay, by painting on the dark area, allowing the overspray to drift over the surface, what we do is soften these edges up. Okay, now we're just adding some shadows to the bottom of the cheek area there. What we're trying to do is get the form. Okay, the form is the shapes. We want the shapes, things to look like they're popping out. Okay, we're not worried about any of the detail at this stage. Detail is the last thing. It's form before shape. Okay, now we can start adding a little bit of that detail, going around those teeth, adding a fine outline to those teeth. Just keep working the whole image at once. Don't concentrate on one part of the image. Make sure the whole image comes together. Don't darken an area too much. Whenever I'm doing anything like this, use reference all the time, but I've painted these 1,000 times. Okay, now I've got some white in the airbrush. What I'm doing is adding some highlights, just some reflective light here and there, just to highlight it, and what that does is make it pop right out. Okay, here comes the fire. First I just freehand some shapes in like fire, then using the outside of the shield of Skullmania 4, start to paint some of the fire in. Okay, with the outline that I laid down first, I use that as a rough guide to start my fire. Okay, and then painting off the curves, I make the overspray all link up, creating hot spots in the fire, and just keep working around. You don't want to use the same shape all the time because it looks too constructed. Now here I go, just a few light strokes in between, just to join those flames up. Okay, just flicking some of that white back in to create those hot spots I was telling you about. Okay, again, I've got black in my airbrush again. What I'm doing is just tightening some of those lines back up, and again coming in a little bit of black again, just shading, putting some of that detail in. Start working at getting a lot tighter, the design now a lot tighter, putting some of the little hairline cracks. With the cracks, you want to practice all the cracks first. Don't go in and start painting them madly all through it. Less is more in this case. Okay, now I've got all the detail in the skull. I think it's time we start adding some blue candy to get this thing going. Okay, the blue candy I'm going to use in this case is Oriental Blue Candy, House of Colour. Now what I'm doing is I've just made up the House of Colour blue candy, and I'm just dusting it over the ends of the flames back in towards the skull. I don't want to just cover the whole thing in one tone. I want some darker and lighter spots. Okay, when I find I've got enough, now I come back in with my white again and just add some highlights to that fire, just to make it hot spots in it again. And also this is where you can add another layer if you wanted to, or flame. But being such a small piece of work here, I'm just going to add some highlights, and again just tone them back a bit with just a bit of that Oriental Blue Candy. And basically there you have it. What I'm doing now is adding just a bit of that blue candy just on the reflective light, so that you can see the blue fire shining off the edges of the skull. This just adds another dimension to it all. Okay, and as you can see, this looks pretty cool. It would have taken me probably about 2 hours to do that freehand, but using Skullmania 4, the Mini Mania series, I've done the whole thing in about 20 minutes. Cool.